We got more insight as to why Nick Saban decided to retire this offseason. Plus, we got a confirmation on who the other final candidate was and who could have replaced him, and a shocking coaching hire that would have blown up the college football world. All that and more on today's episode of 4th and 10. 4 college football stories in just around 10 minutes. Now, let's go for it. Before we get to today's video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you're watching this video, odds are you love college football, and odds are you aren't subscribed to my channel. So make sure to subscribe to one of the best college football communities here on YouTube. So it sounds like Nick Saban has been contemplating retirement at least for the last couple of years. He was going on a year-to-year basis, unwilling to commit to players and coaches for the long term. And it sounds like what really got this whole thing rolling was Alabama's loss to Michigan in the Rose Bowl. Here's what Nick Saban told ESPN. "I want to be clear, that wasn't the reason, but some of those events certainly contributed. I was really disappointed in the way that the players acted after the game. You gotta win with class, you gotta lose with class. We had our opportunities to win the game and we didn't do it. And then showing your ass and being frustrated and throwing helmets and doing that stuff. That's not who we are and what we've promoted in our program. I thought we could have had a hell of a team next year, and then maybe 70 or 80% of the players you talk to, all they want to know is two things. What assurances do I have that I'm going to play because they're thinking about transferring, and how much are you going to pay me? Our program here was always built on how much value can we create for your future and your personal development, academic success in graduating and developing an NFL career on the field. So I'm saying to myself, maybe this doesn't work anymore, that the goals and aspirations are just different, and that it's all about how much money can I make as a college player. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that's never been what we were all about, and it's not why we had success through the years." Now this makes total sense, and it's what we were all kind of suspecting. Nick Saban has been pretty vocal over the last couple of seasons about the landscape of college football. He's been in favor of NIL and the transfer portal, and for the players to do whatever they want, but it's clearly bothered him that this was the direction we were trending in. People wanted assurances that I was going to be here for 3 or 4 years, and it became harder to make those assurances. But the thing I loved about coaching the most was the relationships that you had with players, and those things didn't seem to have the same meaning as they once did. Nick Saban told ESPN that despite all of this going on, he was still unsure of what to do. A week after the Rose Bowl, he had made a decision on whether or not he'd be returning or he'd be retiring. Nick Saban met with Alabama Athletic Director Greg Byrne, but a decision wasn't made after that meeting still. Per ESPN, Saban was in his office at his regular time at around 7 a.m. on Wednesday, January 10th. Even staff members who had been with him the longest said it was business as per usual. Saban met with people on his staff that Wednesday morning and conducted Zoom interviews with prospective assistant coaches. Here's more of what Nick Saban said to ESPN. "I'm sitting there looking at the clock, talking to Miss Terry, and you know you've got a team meeting coming up. I guess I still wasn't 100% sure. I thought it was the right time for us. I didn't like how it would impact the program, the players, the coaches, the people in the organization, and the university. That part of it was really hard, but it was inevitable that it was going to happen at some point in time, and I didn't want to write the program down. It was just the right time." Well, with Nick Saban officially gone, it was time for Greg Byrne to find his next head coach. He put a 72-hour clock on it, and according to ESPN, the only 2 candidates were Washington's Kalen DeBoer and Florida State's Mike Norvell. Immediately, there was speculation that Clemson's Dabo Swinney and Ole Miss's Lane Kiffin were possible candidates as well, but they were never officially in the mix. Personally, I've always thought that it would end up being Dabo who would follow Saban whenever he retired. Swinney played and coached at Alabama and built a dynasty while he was at Clemson. Lane Kiffin also made a lot of sense, but as I've learned recently, I guess a lot of higher-ups and donors at Alabama aren't necessarily the biggest fans of him. Texas head coach Steve Sarkisian was another name that was thrown out there, but he was never in the mix as well. Alabama's leadership knew that Sark wasn't going to leave Texas after guiding his team to the college football playoff, especially with the Longhorns Longhorns move into the SEC in 2024. Greg Byrne flew to Seattle to meet with Kalen DeBoer, and according to ESPN, there were also serious discussions with Mike Norvell that same day. Per the article, in the early hours of Friday morning, the fear among Florida State officials was that Mike Norvell was close to leaving for Alabama. ESPN says that Florida State was poised to move quickly if that happened, and they already had their top candidate in mind if they were to lose him. Well, according to that report, their top replacement would have been Lane Kiffin. Now, I'm not quite certain how serious that got, or if Lane Kiffin would have been even interested in that opportunity, but the article says he was their top candidate if Norvell would have left. Norvell never said if he was actually offered the Alabama job, but he told ESPN he considered all of his options. Later that afternoon, Norvell took to social media and announced that he'd be staying at Florida State. Shortly after, he agreed to a contract extension, making him one of the highest paid coaches in all of college football. I know we got a pretty wild coaching carousel with Kalen DeBoer leaving Washington for Alabama, but can you imagine what it would have looked like if Mike Norvell left for Alabama and Lane Kiffin would have gone to Florida State? Then you probably would have had a solid hire at Ole Miss, and who knows what the chain reaction would have been after that. Alright, enough of Nick Saban and Alabama talk, let's discuss Chip Kelly and UCLA. He had his introductory press conference at Ohio State this week after being named their offensive coordinator. Before we get to all of that, listen to this Los Angeles Times piece go completely in on him. I thought this was something and it had to be shared. In his first attempt to explain his self-imposed demotion, Chip Kelly said he never thought about quitting anything. That's funny considering he was quitting for most of his 6 seasons at UCLA. He put in a minimal effort in recruiting, barely engaged boosters, did next to nothing to enhance his team's name, image, and likeness efforts. Let that sink in. The highest paid state employee in California did not want to do his job, so he left. Some have painted him as an offensive savant with a few quirks. Given what he said Tuesday in his first remarks in his new post, he's an oddball who lacks honor. He never came close to winning a Pac-12 championship. His high point was winning the LA Bowl. His final record was 35-34. His teams were such a dud with fans that the Bruins posted their 3 lowest average home attendance figures in their 4+ decades at the Rose Bowl. Yeah, this guy came in from the top rope with this article. Chip Kelly said coaching the Bruins quarterbacks in that December bowl game led to the realization that he wanted to get back to the essence of football. I think my wife remarked, she's like, I haven't seen you this happy in a long time. I wasn't leaving to take a head coaching job somewhere else. I wasn't thinking that the grass was greener at another university. It was just, in my personal situation, this is what I wanted to do. It would have taken a special place for me to leave UCLA because I love those players and I love that coaching staff. To be here with Ryan, I've had a great relationship. I've known Ryan since he was a little kid. I think a lot of things just fell into place that way. I can't tell you how many coaches that have called me since I made this decision, who have said, I'm 2 years behind you, brother, that are thinking the exact same way. Yeah, it's safe to say that nobody here in Los Angeles likes Chip Kelly. Now, I'm an Arizona State fan, but I know a lot of people who support UCLA, and man, did they hate this guy's guts. We'll wrap up today's video with our final piece of coaching news. According to reports, Ole Miss has hired former Mississippi State head coach Zach Arnett as a defensive analyst. He went 4-6 in 2023 before he was fired 2 weeks before the Egg Bowl. Prior to that, he served as the defensive coordinator under Mike Leach. When Arnett joined Leach's staff in 2020, he was considered by many to be among the top young defensive minds in all of college football. He was a 2-time nominee for the Broyles Award, which is given to the nation's top assistant coach. Things didn't necessarily go well during his time as the head coach for Mississippi State, but he has a solid background, and this should be a pretty good addition for Lane Kiffin's staff. So, what are your thoughts on all the topics that were covered in today's video? Do you understand why Nick Saban decided to retire? Also, should Alabama have gone with Mike Norvell instead? Lastly, would you have liked to see Lane Kiffin end up at Florida State? Whatever your thoughts are on all the topics we covered, let me know in the comment section down below. Before you leave, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. I'm posting college football videos all off season, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. Also, don't forget to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.